Welcome back to an introduction to airport privatization. In the last lecture, we discussed how privatization of Cardiff Airport was an exception to the general trend of successful privatization of British airports. In this lecture, we are going to discuss another similar case study of unsuccessful privatization of a British airport. The case of Glasgow Airport is very interesting to study because the airport was privatized and then brought back by government for just £1 and then privatized again. Glasgow Airport is a medium-sized airport in Scotland, United Kingdom. It is located 30 miles from the city centre and has a history of being a passenger airport in Scotland. Since the 1940s, looking at pre-COVID figures, Glasgow is a busy airport with close to 9 million annual passengers, making it the second busiest airport in Scotland after Edinburgh Airport, and one of the busiest in the United Kingdom. Infrastructure-wise, airport is built on an area of nearly 900 acres with 16 boarding gates, that is, gates having facility of jet bridges for convenience of passengers. The airport also has the second longest runway among the four main airports of Scotland. The airport also features a dedicated railway station that connects the airport to Glasgow and other areas in Scotland. By default, like all airports in Britain, Glasgow Airport was owned and operated by a state-owned enterprise, British Aviation Authority, until 1986, when it was privatized and turned into BAA plc. Then in 2001, Infratel Limited, a New Zealand-based infrastructure investment company, purchased majority shareholding in the airport and purchased the remaining shares in 2004 to become airport's sole owner. In November 2013, the airport was bought by the Scottish government for just a single pound, which we'll discuss in detail shortly. In December 2014, the airport was again privatized when it was sold to Ageas Airports Limited, a company owned by Ferrovial, the Spanish multinational infrastructure and transport company, and Macquarie Group, a global financial services group headquartered in Australia. What we are interested in is studying what caused the reversal of privatization in 2013 and why the airport was brought back by government for just a single pound. So let's take a look at what Infratel did when it became the sole private airport owner of Glasgow Airport. The initial performance of Infratel was good. The airport saw an increase in passenger routes that indicated that the airport was becoming a choice for airlines. Infratel also worked on developing new facilities for aircraft repair, maintenance, and overhauling. It made the airport more attractive for airlines to choose it as a hub or secondary base where airlines could develop maintenance capacity given the needed infrastructure to support it. Another natural factor also worked in favor of Infratel. The airport had relatively stable weather conditions, with less fog experienced in the winters as compared to other airports in and around Scotland. Therefore, the airport became an important diversionary airport where flights actually meant to reach other airports could land when weather got adverse. It contributed positively in the best interest of Infratel. All of these factors indicated a positive result of privatization. The growing airport revenues were encouraging for the government as well as the private owner infratil. So what went wrong? Do you remember the last lecture in which we discussed how Cardiff Airport's decline started from the economic recession and continued until the airport was purchased back by the government? We had discussed how economic recession was there, but Cardiff's private owners' inability to fight the crisis was the actual reason why the airport's survival became challenging. Well, Glasgow's case is somewhat similar. The economic recession of 2007 hit the overall aviation industry, and therefore Glasgow Airport was also hit. The decline of airport in both passenger numbers and cargo continued as a downward slope, with things going out of control. In a matter of approximately 5 years, airport passenger numbers fell from 2.4 million to less than half of that, that is 1.1 million. Similarly, cargo fell from 32,000 tons to less than one-third of that, that is 10,000 tons. It obviously resulted in decreasing revenues and continuously deteriorating financial performance of the airport. Annual losses for the airport's trading activities accumulated to over £20 million in the 5-year period we are discussing here. And just like we had earlier studied how Cardiff Airport was hit disproportionately by the economic recession, Glasgow Airport was also hit disproportionately by the economic recession. There were two main reasons why Glasgow suffered more than others. The first was its dependency on Ryanair. The airport had majority of its traffic coming from Ryanair, and when Ryanair reduced its flights, the airport suffered most. Second was the shift in trend of air cargo, in which wide-body passenger planes were used to fly freight instead of dedicated freight planes. It deprived the airport of the large revenues it was generating from dedicated cargo facilities. Unable to control the situation, the private owner Infratel put the airport up for sale in 2012. The last potential buyer withdrew in September 2013. Despite marketing it for 18 months, the airport could not be sold. Airport was facing a great risk of closure. However, the Scottish government couldn't afford the closure of Glasgow Airport because the airport had a significant economic value in the region. Government's analysis found Glasgow Airport's total annual contribution to the Scottish economy to be more than £60 million. From an employment point of view, the airport was found responsible for over 1,800 jobs directly or indirectly. Therefore, leaving the airport to its fate in the hands of private ownership was certainly not an option in the best interest of national economy. And these circumstances led the Scottish government to purchase the airport back at a price of £1 from the private owner, because the private owner had already tried selling it on its own and failed, and the airport had become a huge liability on the private owner. Government took over and supported the airport with public money to save it from closure. After stabilizing the airport, government returned it to private ownership, under which the airport is operating fine until now. The important takeaway from studying Glasgow Airport is how the private owner could not manage the airport in the face of economic crisis and tried to sell it unsuccessfully. Finally, government had to take over to save employments and the positive contribution of the airport towards national economy. With this, we conclude our discussion on Glasgow Airport. See you in the next lecture.